I'm Alex.
And I'm Shane.
And this is the RPM podcast.
And welcome back to another episode. And today, I'm actually really excited about this, Alex. It's our 5 bold predictions for 2021. Now, to summarise this episode, both Alex and I are going to throw out some pretty ambitious predictions for 2021. I'm interested to see what you've got. And I know we've been going back and forth for the last couple of days, like not bouncing ideas off each other, but almost teasing each other. And at the end of the episode, we'll have a look at what the viewers think as well, their bold predictions for 2021. And then at the end of the year, we'll go back and look at our bold predictions and see how horribly wrong we were or how tantalizingly close we were. And let's be honest, if it's anything like 2020, this whole season could be completely just bonkers. I don't know what other word to describe it. Anything could happen if it's to go by 2020. So I don't think anything is too ambitious. I think everything's in with a shot, unless you're going to turn around and say Williams is going to be the Constructors' World Champion, but never say never. So, Alex, is there anything else you want to add to the introduction?
Just that, when I was making mine, I don't know about you, but I was kind of thinking stuff that was, because like you said, there's always a possibility of wackiness given the situation, but I was trying to think of stuff that's not impossible, but like it's unlikely, but it's not impossible.
Oh, I've got such a grin on my face. If you're watching this on YouTube, you just see a constant grin on my face because I think this is going to be a really fun episode. And I've been looking forward to this for the last few days. I'm not going to lie.
I've done my best to justify these as best as I can. So.
As have I. But you'll have to hear me out on a couple of them.
Okay, my first prediction then. Number 1 is that Fernando Alonso will win a race.
What?
Now, I've already said how much progress Renault have made with their car. And current issues aside, I believe they have now replaced Cyril Abiteboul, because obviously he left very recently. That was a bit of a surprise. But let's not get into that. They basically have been able to start competing for podiums in 2020, and that's good. Now, Ferrari are not going to magically propel themselves consistently to the front of the field, I think. So Renault are still very much in a running for those podium places. And I think given favourable conditions, if anybody can put underdog machinery on the top step, it's Fernando Alonso. Now, I'm more than happy to admit that I was pretty sceptical when the rumours of Alonso coming back started to come in. And I couldn't quite believe it even when it was officially announced. You know, it's like, Fernando, like, isn't he going to be 40 when the season starts? Like, yeah, is he still going to be the Alonso that we remember? But let's not forget that he got the 2011 Ferrari that struggled with grip and was like 1.5 to 2 seconds slower than the Red Bull when they arrived in Albert Park that year. He got that car onto the podium 10 times throughout the season, including a win at the British Grand Prix when his teammate Massa's best result all season was 5th. He also mounted a title challenge in the 2012 Ferrari, which it really didn't seem rightly capable of at all. And that was the season, of course, that he won in Valencia. And that's a difficult circuit to overtake on, right?
Absolutely,
and he started from 11th on the grid to win that race. He also had plenty of impressive performances during the dark days of McLaren Honda. I always remember when he finished 7th in Baku after he started 13th.
Yeah.
And he had to drag the car back to the pits with 2 punctures and he needed a front wing change. And, that's one where he's like, you drive carefully and they crash into you, And of course,
one of his classics.
It's just plenty of classic Alonso radio messages. And of course, finally, that says nothing of the fact that this guy is a 2-time world champion and is one of the few to have meritoriously beaten the legend himself, Michael Schumacher.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone can make magic happen in an unlikely car and in difficult circumstances, it's Fernando. Fernando Alonso will win a race in 2021.
Blimey, you've come out strong. You've hit me hard.
I'm swinging.
You are swinging. You are doing everything you can to try and make this interesting. You know what? I don't disagree at all, really. Fernando Alonso to win a race in 2021. It wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world, would it? I mean, like you said, podiums have been on the table this year. Hopefully they continue going forward. Maybe more than a podium going forward. Who knows? But I think that's a very tasty prediction. And if that comes true, I think we're going to be in for a great year. Now, would you like me to move on to my one? I've kind of rejiggled it whilst you've come out of that bold prediction. I've just rejiggled mine a little bit because I'm gonna take your Fernando Alonso, and I'm going to give you Sebastian Vettel to win a race with Aston Martin.
Okay.
And I don't think it's going to be, for exactly the same reasons. I don't have all the fantastic and clearly well thought out stats you've just come up with. I applaud you for being very prepared. And in classic RPM podcast style, I am not. But let's look at the facts. Let's have a look at last year. Lance Stroll got pole position in unlikely circumstances. I know it was a difficult track, but the car performed. The car has got pace. Also, Sergio Perez won a race. So the car is there. I mean, there was 2 Mercedes on the grid, 2 Ferraris and 2 Red Bulls, and yet Sergio Perez won the race. Now, I know a couple of things happened to, George Russell was driving the car, Max crashed out turn 1, Alex Albon wasn't really there the whole season. So, things happen to make that possible. But I truly believe with the new funding, just the new money and the new sponsorship, that Racing Point are going in the right directions, just like Renault/Alpine or Alpine, however you want to pronounce it. Not to mention also, they got 15 points deducted from them at the beginning of the year for the brake duct issue. And if they didn't have that penalty, they would have come 3rd this year in the constructors. So an extremely competitive car. I think a couple of constructor cars could potentially do this. Like you mentioned, Renault, is in with a shout. And I truly believe that Aston Martin will be in with a shout as well. So Sebastian Vettel, to regain his confidence, to come back from the ashes of Ferrari and win one race with Aston Martin Racing. What do you think of that?
Okay, yeah. I mean, of course, Vettel himself got onto the podium in a Ferrari at the Turkish Grand Prix.
He did.
So, yeah, he's not a complete stranger to the podium from last year. And yeah, the Aston Martin is potentially shaping up to be a powerful contender. Hopefully it will be. Obviously, the more competition, the better. So, yeah, I think that's possible. I think Vettel's going to have to get pretty comfortable with the car, and I hope that very soon he feels happy with it, and that he's found himself in a car that Aston Martin have developed with his confidence in mind. Because, of course, we know that once Vettel has a secure rear end, for example, that seems to be something that he needs in his car. He can do incredible things, and when he was in that Red Bull, he dominated everyone. So it's not like the guy's forgotten how to drive. So bold,
absolutely.
But yeah, definitely not impossible.
So yeah, not out of the question. Like you said, Sebastian Vettel has had some fantastic races before when he was back in that Red Bull. And I truly believe with just a little bit more encouragement and, well, not necessarily encouragement, but with the right team around him, he could do great things again. And I think it would be fantastic for the sport to have Sebastian Vettel come back and be a threat. Not necessarily a threat to Mercedes, but a threat to the likes of Red Bull. You never know. It could happen. Bold, like you said, but plausible.
Okay, I'll hit you with my number 2 then.
Go on.
And speaking of number 2, it's kind of appropriate that this should come second, because it's about Red Bull.
Ooh.
And my number 2 is that both Red Bull drivers will finish above Bottas in the Drivers' Championship. Going big.
That is very bold.
So
very bold indeed.
Whilst we already know that Mercedes started working on the W12 about halfway through last season, and let's face it, it will take nothing short of a colossal upset to stop them from taking the Constructors' Trophy, courtesy of pretty much Lewis Hamilton alone. Assuming that he signs. We don't know that for certain yet, but it seems it would be a real surprise if he didn't. But Red Bull do look to be a renewed force for 2021, and definitely benefit considerably from the relative stability of the regulations going into this season. They've finally decided to give Perez a spin, of course, after their last 2 years supporting their young talent. Now that's all behind them. Much has been said about that, but that's now behind them. And assuming that they've learned some valuable lessons from the problems that they had with the RB16, I think that the driver pairing has the potential to knock Bottas out of not just the number 2 spot, but maybe even the number 3 spot as well. I mean, I think about Sergio. He must be so hungry for big results, having spent
absolutely
pretty much his entire career in the midfield, and now finding himself in potentially race-winning machinery, which is even better than what he had before. and surely the best machinery he'll have ever had. And Verstappen was an absolute beast in 2020, of course, and must be feeling pretty gutted not to have secured second place even then. Now, as for Bottas, as has been pointed out before, he's got as many wins in 4 seasons as Hamilton's teammate as Rosberg got in 2016 alone. And I'm sorry to say,
awful stat.
I know it's not a great look. And I think it says, and that's not just sort of ragging on Bottas. I think that says as much about Hamilton as anything, because the guy is just terrifyingly consistent. Now, I'm sorry to say that there's just no reason to think that he'll suddenly take it to Lewis any more than he's been able to before. Now, to his credit, he's shown a lot of mental fortitude considering the pressure he's been put under, and has been under for a very long time, and is still seriously quick when he puts his mind to it. But I think that 2021 might be the season that his sort of inconsistency combined with a rejuvenated Red Bull could just see Bottas drop below the top 3 and see Red Bull punching up into both second and third place. So yeah, both Red Bull drivers to finish above Bottas in the Drivers' Championship for me.
That's less of a shock to me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if I quickly just move on to my second prediction, and then we'll summarise those bold predictions together, because I've got here, and I'd like to point out, listeners, that Alex and I did not discuss any of each other's predictions. We're like reacting to these as we hear them. So I didn't think any of them would cross, but they ever so slightly have at the moment. So my second prediction is Max Verstappen to finish P2 in the Drivers' Championship. It was a little bit more of a safe one, if you ask me, a lot safer than yours, because obviously you think they're going to become Red Bull, going to go second and third. Given the performance of the Red Bull last year and how on top Max was of that car, there's no doubt that with a little bit more reliability, that Max could have finished second place in the Drivers' Championship. And with Bottas, I think unfortunately, I don't see him ironing out any inconsistencies at the moment. I think if you've been Lewis Hamilton's teammate for a while, it really, I can imagine it starts to wear on you after a couple of years of not having any chance of winning the championship. So together we regard Red Bull very highly in 2021.
Looks like it.
As a constructor. So yeah, I think Max is going to finish P2, and you think both Red Bulls are going to outscore Bottas. Interesting.
It would be good as well if Red Bull can develop a car that really challenges Mercedes a bit more consistently. I mean, we've shown that Max can do it, but Max Verstappen is a very, very special driver.
It's a special breed.
I think more than anything, I just have a certain faith in Perez. I just think it's kind of like the right time in his career. I know that I said before that I wasn't sure that Red Bull would take him, and that's just purely because of Red Bull's. They've been quite. Maybe a bit stubborn and very sort of headstrong on their young driver program. So I would have been a bit surprised that they went outside it, but obviously they now have done that. And I think that Perez, given his performance last season, he must be super hungry to prove that he is able to take that seat. And I don't think that he's going to settle for, being 3 or 4 tenths behind Max. I think he's really, really going to try and chase him. And, he's got a hell of a lot of consistency. He's incredible at tyre management. I think it will be an exciting one. If he can bring it to Max, then there's a good chance.
That's an exciting pairing for sure. Perez has got so much experience behind him as well. If you look at the Red Bull drivers which have come and gone in the last 3 or 4 years, some of them have got a handful of years underneath them, 1 or 2 years at most. I know Max came into Red Bull with with limited experience, but like you said, he was a very special type of driver. He's just incredible, let's be honest, on the track. There's no doubt about it. But other drivers have come and gone with limited experience, but Perez has got a wealth of experience behind him. And I do think I agree with that in mind. And have seen the last couple of years of Red Bull, he's going to be gunning for equaling Max or bettering him. It's going to be a very tasty battle between those two, because I reckon it'll be close. I really think it will be close.
Looking forward to it. Okay, shall I give you my number 3?
Go on.
Okay, number 3 is that Nikita Mazepin will get a race ban, and maybe even more.
Oh, you know what?
So
it's shaping up to be an interesting season.
Nikita Dmitrievich Mazepin, I believe is his full name. The face that launched 1,000 hashtags. In all seriousness, though, it's not like this guy doesn't have priors up to his ears. This is a racing driver who is probably better known for what he's got up to off the track than on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about his, frankly, contemptible Instagram video from late last year. He punched Callum Ilott for blocking him one time in Formula 3. Now, a driver punching another driver after an incident, I'm amazed that he only I think he got banned from one race. But I would have thought an incident like that, I'm surprised he didn't get banned from the whole championship, but that's pretty lenient in my book.
Absolutely. Given
drivers
that
punching each other.
When Max and, was it Perez or Max and Ocon had that issue in Parc Fermé after the race, Max had to do community service for it.
Yeah.
A month's worth of, or however many hours worth of community service for it. We don't know the ins and outs of that, but like you said, a one race ban seems... Yeah,
it's assault.
There's nothing
literally
short
crime.
of it, is there? There's nothing short of it. So the fact that he got away with it, really, like he has many other incidents, it would not surprise me if he pulls something in Formula One this year, which is extremely controversial, and ends up causing an incident, or is deemed so dangerous that there is a race ban.
Yeah, you mentioned other incidents. He also recklessly crashed with Aitken in Sochi in F2 after deciding to just ignore the bollards and try and rejoin the track, which is pointless anyway because he was going to get penalised for not going around the bollards. And then that itself caused a big collision with Matsushita, and I think it hospitalised Matsushita. I think he had to go and get quite serious treatment for that. And he's just generally got a racing record of going both along and occasionally well past the grey area of hard racing and into situations that have landed him penalties, even to the extent of costing him victory. And I should say that Mazepin is not like a terrible racer. He can perform. But with the stakes of Formula One being orders of magnitude higher than the feeder series, and Mazepin demonstrating an attitude of a sort of self-important brat with temperament issues, it doesn't seem unreasonable to guess that this guy's going to find himself called to the stewards on many an occasion. And I think that a race ban is on the cards at some point. I just want to add that this is one prediction that I genuinely hope is wrong, because I don't want anyone to get hurt because of this guy, or indeed, I don't want anyone to get hurt, full stop. So I hope that we come back to this episode at the end of the season and say, boy, that Mazepin guy really turned things around, showed genuine contrition for his past misdeeds and maturity. But yeah, I don't think we will. I don't think we will, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm saying that Nikita Mazepin gets at least a race ban.
Yeah, if the past is anything to go on, then he's going to pull some pretty controversial moves this year. I don't want to bring Max into the same conversation, but Max, did some weaving when he was first in Formula One, and that was deemed like dangerous. And
he's always been on the line, isn't he?
On the line, but I think Nikita's going to make Max seem like an absolute angel when it comes to his driving style. But like you say, hopefully we look back on this in 12 months' time and we can go, Alex, how wrong you were. He's the safest driver on the grid and caused no issues this year whatsoever. 0 points. But we'll see. Like you said, he's got a reputation on and off the track at the moment, and whatever he does this year, it's going to be under high scrutiny from the whole paddock, the world feed, all the media outlets. He is pre-season testing, when they get started, the fact that Haas haven't made a statement or have not really said anything about Nikita given the last couple of months, and that Instagram video, he's already going to be in for a bombarding with the media, and so's Haas. So
yeah, and the Haas Twitter account is just Mick Schumacher.
It's so good that they've got Schumacher, and and the fact that they can just plaster his photos everywhere, because it's the only thing keeping that Twitter account positive at the moment. Everything else, unfortunately, is an absolute disaster, which is a shame because Haas have had such an emotional year, and here they are dealing with the fallout of their newly signed driver. The consequences for hiring a billionaire. That's besides the point. Oh, it's a good prediction.
Your number 3 then.
My number 3. Williams to score points at more than one race in the 2021 season.
Okay.
Now, I actually want this to happen, unlike your Nikita Mazepin situation. Williams have come close to scoring points. Multiple drivers over the last 2 years riding in P11 for some time. Obviously, they picked up a point in 2019, failed to score any points in 2020, but with a top finish of P11 on multiple occasions, it's not out the question. And it's a bold prediction because we're talking about Williams Racing here, and they've unfortunately been at the bottom of the grid, or, the bottom with Haas at the bottom for the last couple of years. So it's bold in the sense that they'll score some points at more than one race. I thought I'd make it a little bit more difficult, but I really think with the potentiality of having some older tracks on the calendar this year, they're already starting to show that we might not get the full calendar, or there might be some substitute races. I think Williams could potentially score points at more than one race this year. I was going to put multiple points at a race, more than one, but then I thought I'd make it a little bit more interesting that one of the Williams drivers, or it doesn't matter who, I hope George, I mean, there's nothing against, oh no, I've completely forgot his name.
Nicholas Latifi.
That's the one. Sorry, Nicholas. There's nothing against Nicholas, but I hope George scores a couple of points with Williams this year to really solidify his chances for the next season in potentially what might be a different car. But what's your take on that? Williams scoring points at multiple races.
Well, I'll give my take on it by I'll do the same thing as you. I'll swap around what was going to be number 4 and number 5 because my number 5 was going to be about Williams. So I'll respond with my number 4, which is I was going to say that Williams are going to beat both Alfa Romeo and Haas in the Constructors' Championship. That was my...
Blimey!
I went bigger.
I was bold.
I've gone bigger.
I was bold, and you've just blown me out of the water.
I mean, I was initially going to make it more about Russell and make it more about what he was going to achieve as an individual. But I thought about it, and I thought those 3 11th place finishes for Latifi last season show that he could yet surprise us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that combined with the very positive trajectory pace-wise for Williams, it shows that they do have an opportunity to sort of claw their way back towards the lower midfield. It was sad to see Claire and Frank leave the sport in 2020. I think it was after the Italian Grand Prix.
Yes, that was their last one.
But it feels like a lot of the necessary steps that the team need to take to join the sport in its current configuration. And obviously Dorilton Capital are in conjunction. They've got the new management on board as well. They appear to have a handle on the developments that are needed to actually improve the car. And it just feels like they're bringing it into modern Formula One. It just feels like, as I've said before, they spent the last 10 to 20 years catching up with everybody else, just trying to meet the current standard, it feels like, apart from, the odd season here and there. We've heard about their closer relationship with Mercedes as well very recently. They've agreed to use their gearboxes and other transferable components from 2022 onwards. So, yeah, there's an air of pragmatism around Williams that's been missing for a very long time. And I think they've embraced it as a long-term project to get them out of the wilderness.
Absolutely. And I'm glad, this may come across as harsh, but I'm glad Claire and Frank left quite early on in the 2020 season, because there's always going to be a transition period between old management and new management. And I wouldn't want that to be over the winter when, time is short as it is. There's a lot of pressure in the factories. Just because we're sat here waiting for F1 to start, it does not mean that these teams are sat around doing nothing.
Definitely not, yeah.
Rest assured, those factories are working at 100% to get those cars ready. There's various F1 documentaries out there to show you how close it is between getting a car out of the factory into pre-season testing. But with Claire and Frank leaving quite early on in the year, that transition period has been over 2020. Dorilton have come in and they've seen what the team's about. They've learned where the areas of improvement needs to be, and they've learned it over a race calendar over a year. So going into next year, it's a fresh start. It's a clean slate, and it's a shame to talk about Frank and Claire about that, getting them, them leaving the team. But actually, I'm very positive. I feel really enthusiastic about Williams going forward, especially into 2022, 2021. I really hope that your prediction and my prediction comes true, and they're not at the bottom of the table, and they've got a couple of points next to their name, because they're a persistent team. And they've always got good things to say. So they deserve some good results. It wasn't that long ago when Massa got P3 at Monza, I think it was. I can't remember. But he said he was getting too old for this, stepping onto the podium, which was absolutely fantastic. But those times they're coming around again. I can feel it.
Sincerely hope so. And just to justify mine a little bit more, because I know mine is like pushing them past both Haas and Alfa Romeo. If we look at Russell, I mean, obviously he's clearly like a big talent, and he's got a lot of confidence from. He obviously lost a lot of confidence at first, perhaps from what happened in Imola, and then definitely gained it all back again in spades with what happened in Mercedes. It was a gutting experience, but he's obviously showed that he's got the pace. And earned his Mr. Saturday title. So a bit more refinement on Sundays and some solid development on that car, combined with Haas obviously fielding 2 rookies. And I think the Ferrari power unit, they obviously say that it's improving, but they've been giving some fairly modest predictions. So I think that Alfa Romeo will struggle with that as well. So I think that with enough development on that car and a bit more refinement from their 2 drivers, it doesn't feel totally impossible that they could beat both Alfa Romeo and Haas.
Yeah, well, time will tell. The new season is only a month or 2 away at the time, just over 2 months at the time of recording, and it's going to be a good one.
So the next one will be your number 4.
It's back to me again, since you matched what I had to say. Now, I'm not sure if this one is bold or not. It was a bit of a long shot, so here it is. Bottas to announce retirement from F1 altogether and to be replaced by George Russell for the 2022 season. So I know there's a lot of speculation about Bottas's seat and what happens in 2022, and obviously with George Russell. But to make it a little bit more bold, I think Bottas will leave Formula One altogether instead of taking a step down into a lower tier team, what I will presume will be a lower tier team on the 2021 season. I would not want to assume that Mercedes is going to be godlike again. But I think Bottas will leave F1 at the end of 2021 and will be replaced by George Russell for the 2022 season.
You might do a Hakkinen, go on a sabbatical that never ends.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your take on that? That's a pretty safe one. I don't know.
So you think that, because I guess this is obviously thinking that Bottas, whatever happens in the season, like I say, I can't see him beating Hamilton. If Hamilton's in that other Mercedes, I just think there's no beating him. Not only is there no beating the Mercedes, but there's just no beating Hamilton and Mercedes. So it will take a serious, serious upset to change that. And all credit to Bottas, absolutely. I mean, if he does it, then it'll, to go down in history as the guy who beat Lewis Hamilton, that alone will be worth it. And
that's what Nico's riding on at the moment. He loves it, doesn't he?
Rosberg was just like, I've done it. Like, I can't do it anymore.
I'm out of here. It was so stressful. I'm done.
So it could either be that, or it could be Bottas just deciding that he's had enough, or he wants to pursue a different. A different path. Go into a different racing category. Go do rallying or something. We know that he really does. I mean, he's Finnish. Of course, he does rally. They basically grow up in the rally car driving seat, and fair play to them. So, I guess it's possible, because if you leave Mercedes. We don't know what's going to happen with 2022, but I guess it's possible that if he leaves, he knows that his career is most likely only going to go on a downward trajectory on that point.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
So, I don't know. Yeah, it's possible. I think that's still a good prediction. It's an interesting one.
I didn't want to feel like I've cheated the system, because I didn't want to make it sound like Bottas is going to come second to Lewis. Obviously, that's probably going to happen, but I think this will be his last year in the sport. I think he'll just hang his helmet up and be like, I'm done with Formula One. This has been quite a journey.
Just regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I think he'll just settle for driving the best car. And after George's performance last year in the same car compared to Bottas, I think he'll retire.
You don't think they'll do a driver swap? He'll go to Williams.
Oh, blimey!
Help build the team back up again. Bottas brings the team back to greatness.
No, nothing like that at all. I think Williams will go for a high sponsor, high paying driver.
Understandable.
So moving on to your 5th and final prediction, Alex. What have you got for me?
Number 5 then. So I guess this is also kind of one that I don't want to be true. But anyway,
compared to mine, who I wish it was true at the end of the season.
So my last prediction then. I'm saying that at least one driver will test positive for COVID-19 and miss a race during the season. This is kind of a prediction I don't really want to happen. But the world is not yet out of the woods when it comes to coronavirus. So,
No.
and I apologize for making it part of this podcast, but there's no avoiding it right now. Even with vaccinations starting to roll out, especially here in the UK, it's precisely because there's light at the end of the tunnel now, sort of becoming visible, that I think that the complacency could set in, and we've seen Lando's caught it, Leclerc's caught it. They've contracted it, and many of the drivers are still traveling around the world for training camps and even just holidaying whilst the rest of us are being ordered to stay at home, which
absolutely. If you think about it, Alex, 25% of the grid have caught coronavirus in the 2020 season. It's 5 drivers out of 20. It's a huge number, so it's not unlikely that won't pick up a couple more people.
Yeah, I do think that we'll find at least one more driver having their sort of sheepishly typed white default text on black background Instagram story being circulated around social media. And as Nico Hulkenberg's phone starts to vibrate portentously. And who's to say we might not see Hulkenberg again? Like he
should
could
have
be
been a
called
prediction
as the super sub.
That should have been a prediction of mine.
And he might nab a great result if he gets that call as well. I was considering doing Hulkenberg will come back and win a race or something. He did qualify a brilliant P3 at the 70th anniversary, and he was able to make a good deal of that racing point, despite the tiny amount of track time that he had. So maybe Latifi will catch it. I'm not saying that I hope that he does, but maybe Latifi will catch it, and Williams decide to give JB Chadwick a run. And they make her the first woman to start a Formula One race since Lella Lombardi.
And she'll score points. And
that'll be like interesting as well, because this year, or 2021, aren't some of the W Series racing going to support Formula One?
I think so, yeah.
I think they've got, and so that would be a good, that would be a good way of getting those two things to coincide. And
it needs to happen.
Yeah, sorry, Latifi. You've got to. Can you just catch COVID? Like, just walk around and ask people to cough on you for a bit, so that we can get, Jamie Chadwick to just have a run. But yeah, I think that at least one driver will test positive. We've seen that the drivers already are doing their thing and still traveling around the world and still potentially breaching guidelines. I mean, I think when you're at that level and you're that rich and it's one rule for them and one rule for everyone else, it sometimes feels like. So I can't see it. I can't see all of the drivers manage to make all the races. I think we'll either see Hulkenberg or someone have to step in at some point.
That would be interesting. Like you said, I hope it doesn't happen, but I also hope to see Hulkenberg back, because I think he brings such a character to the sport for the weekend, and there's always a bit of hype around the race. It's a different element to the race weekend when Hulkenberg's back, to see what he can achieve not driving an F1 car for the majority of the year. So that would be interesting.
All right, your last one then.
Here we go. And this is something I want to happen, but I'm fearful that it won't happen due to some of the reasons we've mentioned in the podcast already today. Well, I've put that McLaren to finish P3 in the Constructors' Championship, like 2020. Now, I think P3 in 2021 would be a massive achievement for McLaren. I was going to put them P2, but I didn't want to make this impossible. It's meant to be plausible, not impossible.
How dare you?
I'm so sorry. But just with the Red Bull and Mercedes, it's not possible. But there's a lot of teams at the top of the standings at the moment. I mean, you look at, you've already mentioned the likes of Renault. I've mentioned Alpine and Aston Martin, both considerably good cars, both scored podiums last year, and various poles, etc. And so close to that third place finishing position. There was only a handful of points in between those three teams, with McLaren coming out on top. I don't know. McLaren have adopted a new engine going forward into this year, which would either cause them a couple of teething problems whilst they adopt it before 2022, or that's what they're aiming for, or it's going to work like an absolute dream and they'll be really competitive. And, I kind of hope for the latter, but I fear that adopting a new engine is no easy feat, especially in Formula One, no matter how much prep you do. I think it would be a struggle for McLaren to finish P3. Should they have finished in P3 this year? Yes, I'm glad they did, but it was lucky that Racing Point got that 15-point penalty, because they would have finished in P4. So that's why I think P3 is a huge achievement and is a bold prediction for 2021. It seems like a bit of an anticlimax, given the predictions we've made. This was a very sensible bold prediction. So what's your thoughts? As a McLaren fans, what is your unbiased thought, Alex?
It's definitely still quite a bold prediction because, like
Yeah,
you
I
say,
thought
there's a lot of competition, and McLaren nabbing that P3 was because of whatever happened with those brake ducts. So, and they cost them those 15 points. So I think it's still a pretty bold prediction. I kind of purposefully avoided making any McLaren related predictions. I saw that Lawrence Barretto on the official Formula One site, he did like 5 predictions, like 5 bold predictions, and one of his was that McLaren would win a race. So I kind of like purposefully avoided making any McLaren related ones because, firstly, I would even go as far to say that saying that McLaren could potentially win a race is, don't know, maybe not even that bold. I would even go as far to say that there's a lot of potential in that team and a lot of potential for the car. It's very hard to say what it will be like until pre-season testing. You've mentioned before the possible difficulties involved with developing a car that's got to adapt to a new engine. But they made a fair bit of work on it through the second half of last season. So it's entirely possible. As for getting P3 again, yeah, it's going to be tough. You're right that it'll still be a serious achievement for them to get P3 again. So if they do, that's a sign that not only that they've managed to get back up to a competitive level where they can fight for serious points finishes, but also podiums as well, but that also it's not just a flash in the pan, but that they are seriously there. They've kind of cemented that position there, and it bodes well, or it will bode well for 2022, hopefully. So, but yeah, still a bold prediction. Definitely still bold.
Right. Well, that concludes our 5 personal bold predictions for 2021. I did think maybe a few of them might overlap. I don't know. It was always going to be interesting, but I'm glad we've had this conversation. It's made me really excited for 2021 because it gives you a glimpse of what could happen. And after 2022, literally anything is possible. So let's go for a recap really quickly, starting with your top 5. Well, we'll go for your 5 and then I'll go through my 5.
So my 5 predictions were that Fernando Alonso will win a race. Both Red Bull drivers will finish above Bottas in the Drivers' Championship. Nikita Mazepin will get a race ban and potentially even more, maybe even get banned for life. We should be so lucky. Williams to beat both Alfa Romeo and Haas in the Constructors' Championship. And at least one driver to test positive for COVID-19 and miss a race.
I really like how varied yours are. They're spot on. As for my 5, they are Sebastian Vettel to win a race with Aston Martin, Max Verstappen to finish P2 in the Drivers' Championship, Williams to score points at more than one race in the 2021 season, Bottas to announce retirement from Formula One and to be replaced by George Russell for the 2022 season, and McLaren to fight hard and finish 3rd in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, all good predictions, all very exciting.
We'll look back at them in 12 months' time or at the end of the season and we'll see how unbelievably far-fetched they were. I don't know.
Who's to say they might not all come true?
I think a couple of these may come true, you know. They've got that 2020 kind of this could happen kind of feeling with them.
Well, that's kind of what I think both of us were going for. Both of us were going for stuff that was like, could happen. Like, it's not completely ridiculous. Like
if we had made these predictions in 2019 and you said Sergio Perez to win a race, I mean, that would have seemed out of, you know, completely out of nowhere, but it happened. Or Lance Stroll to get pole. Again, it happened. So these predictions could happen.
Pierre Gasly to win a race in an AlphaTauri, you'd be like.
At Monza.
Yeah.
Unbelievable stuff.
So we also got some, we also asked you for your predictions. We also asked for your bold predictions out on Twitter, and we got quite a few responses. So thanks very much for those. We've deliberately saved these to the end just in case they overlapped with ours. So we wanted to sort of talk about them after the fact. The first one we got here, we got from Pits to Podium, who said Esteban Ocon to win a race.
Well, there you go.
That is bold. I mean, I say Fernando.
It almost ties in with your little Alpine doing quite well and Fernando Alonso winning a race. So why not?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I've been quite a staunch defender of Ocon. I rate him as a driver.
You have.
And what a tough task this guy's got. I mean, he's had to be against Daniel Ricciardo and then Fernando Alonso. I mean, that's an even worse gig than Van Dorn, isn't it? Like, you've got to do two brilliant drivers, one after the other. He's got a hell of a lot to prove, but I think that Esteban Ocon to win a race, yeah, I mean, that would be amazing if it did happen.
It would be. It might be one of those wacky races where it's pouring down the rain or Turkey hasn't surfaced its track properly again for this kind of stuff to happen. But
as long as it involves tyre management, because if it involves tyre management, then he's got a good chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it could happen. Moving on to the next one from Bryant Hernandez. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Red Bull will finish behind McLaren in the constructors for P3. Now that goes against everything we've already said in this podcast, which
That's even spicier than ours.
Which doesn't mean that we're wrong, or it doesn't mean that you're wrong. Obviously, these are all opinions. But imagine if Red Bull finished P4 or lower. That just says we'll finish behind McLaren in the constructors. So Brian clearly thinks that Red Bull are going to have an absolute howler of a season, and are going to go.
Or that McLaren are going to have a stormer.
Or McLaren are going to have a stormer. Well, if McLaren's going to finish in P3, does that suggest that Ferrari's in P2 and Mercedes in P1? Oh, there's a lot to read into that. It's a
he's got a second part to it, hasn't it?
I've just read that. Part two is Ferrari will finish P4 close behind Red Bull. So
Brian is presumably saying Haas, and then so Mercedes, and then McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari. That's wow. That is bold. That is definitely bold. And that would be incredible if we saw that happen.
That would be a great season. Basically, everyone's just putting down their wish list for 2021.
We've established that Mercedes can basically just do whatever. They can just win by miles, whatever. You do that. Have the occasional off race, just a few engine blow-ups here and there. But
a few controversial pit stops.
Yeah, but otherwise completely dominate, and we'll just focus on everybody else.
Absolutely.
Okay, next we have regular Dave Doherty, who has given us a Constructors and Drivers Championship order. Constructors, Mercedes first, Red Bull second, McLaren third, so that ties in with your prediction. And then Aston Martin for fourth.
Oof.
So we're saying that they're going to keep themselves in that position. Not enough to get past McLaren again, but they're going to be able to overcome Alpine and potentially Ferrari as well. So that's still bold.
I like what Dave's done here. He's played it 50-50, safe, not safe. So he's gone, you know what, Mercedes, Red Bull, there's clearly some points going to be happening there. McLaren, Aston Martin, I like that bold position, but you've played it ever so slightly safe as well. So you'll never lose on that one, Dave. I think you've played that quite well.
And then also we've got drivers' orders as well of Ham-Bot-Ver.
Ham-Bot-Ver. Hamilton, Bottas, Max.
Which is not a bold prediction, but... No. Is definitely a good prediction.
Yeah, well, we'll look back at that at the end of the year and see how you did, Dave. And the last prediction we have is from Fergie TV, and that's Bottas to finally become the F1 Drivers' World Champion. #VB77. So this is clearly a Bottas fan, which is absolutely fantastic. Bottas to become world champion and then maybe retire out of F1. That wasn't outside of my prediction. I just said that he would retire out of F1. I didn't say that he wouldn't win the championship there. So me and Fergie TV are on the same wavelength there.
Who knows? I mean, Bottas might. The thing is the reason why it feels so unlikely is because we've been in this position so many times before. Like when he first came to Mercedes, he'd be like, okay, first season at Mercedes, needs a bit of time. He's got to adjust to Lewis Hamilton, probably the worst teammate you could have.
Yeah.
So after that, and then it was 2018, this is it. Bottas wins that first race in Australia, and I'm like, here we go. He's going to do it. But then, of course, we know what happened.
Bottas
and the same
10.0.
thing happened in 2019. Here we go. He's going to do it. This is the time. Oh, no, he's not done it again. In 2020, he wins the first race. Yes, here we go. He's done it again. Oh, no, he's not done it. So
maybe he needs to lose that first race.
Yeah, just lose in Bahrain, and then maybe, I don't know. We've been in this situation so many times before. It's not impossible. He could do it.
Never say never.
I still believe in Bottas version 7.8.
0.2.
Point whatever it is.
Nico Rosberg was very persistent. Kept on coming back, kept on resetting.
And lots of drivers have been in that situation.
Exactly.
Button and went years without even winning a Grand Prix.
Yes, and then all of a sudden he came to life. So never give up. And that's basically Hamilton's saying as well, isn't it? Never give in, never give up, keep on trying. So Bottas just got to listen to Hamilton, and then maybe you'll do better in Formula One. No, jokes aside, that would be an incredible year if Bottas, we're both British, but if Bottas won the Drivers' World Championship, blimey, we're in for a treat this season.
Yeah, I want to see him take it to Hamilton. Like,
absolutely.
As racing fans, we want to see. We don't want to see Hamilton disappearing off into the distance. I'm sure Hamilton doesn't want that either. Like, he probably gets a bit tired of it as well. Like, he wants a good race, like all drivers do. So,
yep.
But all very good predictions. Some really, really bold ones there. Thanks very much for sending them in. Much appreciated. So, have you got any other bold predictions that you'd like to send to us? You can obviously get to us on Twitter at RacePerMinute, or send us an email, info@raceperminute.com. You can also comment below on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to us and like the video if you like what we do. And if you're listening to the audio version, give us a rating and a review wherever it is that you get your podcasts. That really helps out the show. And we live in an algorithm-dominated world, so we kind of we have to do all this stuff, because if you give us all this likes and ratings and stuff, it just means that more people will see it. And it means that we're able to get out there a little bit more. It's not easy. Like Formula One, it's a highly competitive environment. Everyone wants to do well.
Certainly in 2020, where everyone has launched a podcast.
Everyone and their dog is doing a Formula One podcast.
But we're here to stay. So, do what Alex says and like the app.
Yeah, so follow us along, join the community at RacePerMinute on Twitter. The email as well, again, is info@raceperminute.com. You can always send us questions and comments as audio clips or video clips, and we'll play them on the show. So if you want to do that as well, feel free. And lastly, if you really, really like what we do, you can support us on Patreon. So that's patreon.com/RacePerMinute, where starting at £1 a month, you can get access to our Discord, come and chat to us about races, and then going up the tiers, you can join us for video calls, watch the race with us, do virtual races with us, get your hands on special merchandise. You saw Scott Hayes at the start of this episode. If you watched us on YouTube, our team principal, supporting us at the highest tier. If you want your name on every video, your name on our website, then go to patreon.com/RacePerMinute. So Shane, that's our 5 bold predictions for 2021.
There they are. And I'm excited for 2021. I know we say this at the end of every podcast, but we've done with F1. We've been without F1 now for about a month. So it's time that it comes back and we can start doing some post-race discussions and see how far-fetched our bold predictions were. And you know what? I hope a couple of these come true. I really do.
Yeah, it still feels so far away, but we'll be with you all the way. So stay with us for more podcasts, virtual races, and more. So yeah, that just leaves me to say thanks very much for joining us.
And we'll see you next time.